Radio Time. I'm Julie Wilder, and today I have this is going to be a really fun episode because it's got some strange coincidences, and it involves one of Orlando's local treasures, if you will. And so I'll just say that even though our motto is conversations for the common good, this episode features some pretty uncommon coincidences. What started out as an innocent crossover concept between Front Porch Radio and the popular Scotch and Good Conversation podcast has turned into a bizarre discovery of entanglement between Peter and I. I was on his show a couple of weeks ago, and he unearthed some interesting commonalities when he interviewed me. And then afterwards, I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh my God, I wonder if, and I had this other crazy thing that, anyway, we're going to be revealing that in this episode because it is just too nuts. So I wrote a whole Substack about it because this is I've always had weird, strange coincidences and synchronicities, but this one is the weirdest one ever, and it's pretty wild. So you guys are going to want to listen. So let me just tell you a little bit about Peter. He is the sometimes funny, sometimes serious, sometimes a little drunk, and often entertaining host of Scotch and Good Conversation, which is an Orlando-based interview podcast, which gets to know the people who make our city and the world cool since 2015. He asks smart people stupid questions, as he says, interviewing countless musicians, comedians, brewers, playwrights, chefs, winemakers, radio and television hosts, professional athletes, and other folks with great stories. Voted number 2 podcast by readers of Orlando Weekly many years in a row. You never know who will be in this studio. Peter Von Taborsky of Scotch and Good Conversation podcast. Welcome to Front Porch Radio.
Thank you. I can't hear myself.
You can't hear yourself?
It's like podcasting in here.
Is it plugged in and is the volume turned up?
No one knows.
We're going to figure that. I
fine.
can hear you.
Okay, as long as you can hear me.
Okay. Okay. It's much funner when you can hear yourself, though.
I know.
You're a Leo.
I'm used to this. I'm a podcaster.
You're a
This
Leo.
is the nicest city I've ever been in. So.
I know. Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, no, I'm taking the new digs, WPRK.
Yeah, it is. I loved the old basement grungy vibe because it was
Little
just
smelly.
Yeah, it was a little stanky, but it had a little graffiti, but it just felt so lived in and authentic. But this is also really delightful in a completely different way. I definitely feel a little bit more professional, if you will.
It's like you could launch a missile in here.
Yeah,
it's
actually.
A lot of buttons and knobs, and it's quite frightening.
Yes.
You seem to know what you're doing, though.
I pretended. You don't
Except
even.
I can't hear myself.
Your headphones aren't even. Are you sure? Just look under the thing
It's okay.
and turn the volume up.
It's really not. No.
All right. Okay.
I'm just screwing with you.
All right. So I think we should just go into our weird coincidence at the beginning because that's really the framework for kind of everything right now. And so I've kind of said a little bit of how this started. Do you want to tell some of the story or?
Well, you blogged about it.
I did.
Yeah.
I showed it to you just as a courtesy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I ran it by people who.
This is Peter and I's second conversation
involved.
ever, by the way.
We talked for an hour and a half the last time.
Yeah, it was. I'm not saying it wasn't a good long
good,
conversation,
good.
but we haven't had a conversation other than a few small texts here and there.
And we haven't really talked since we found out all this wacky coincidences about each other.
So this is a live on-air discovery of the rest of the story.
It's a continuation of my podcast.
Yes.
At the beginning of
So
your
you
radio
actually
show.
have to go and listen to Scotch and Good Conversation, episode 4, 5, 6. By the way,
Okay.
that feels
Is that
important.
good? Is that there's
4,
some sort
5,
of-
and 6.
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't
It's
put
real
those
easy.
two things
4,
together.
5, 6.
Yeah.
So it's great because you have to go listen to that. And there was all this intrigue. So you have this amazing format where you ask, you basically unearth 3 coincidences or 3 things that you discover about the host or not the host, the person you're interviewing. Yeah. But it started a little bit before that because.
Because I'm bad at dating.
So I went on the dating apps as one does when you leave a relationship. It seems like we had a breakup around the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we both had a breakup around the same time. So I know we're both old and we're like, oh.
You're not old.
Yeah, you're right. You're older.
I'm old. Yeah,
You're older.
Oldish.
He's 11 years older than me. Exactly, everyone. And
exactly almost to the minute.
Exactly almost to the minute. And so I think I found you on the dating app.
Yeah, I think you hit me up first. Is that the case?
Yeah, and he had kind of a unique look to him. His profile was interesting. Most of them are like, I've got a fish, or
I had my shirt on in all the pictures.
Your shirt was on.
Yeah.
You didn't seem like you seemed like a real person. And then, of course, I don't know if you did it on purpose, but you're wearing a T-shirt that had the name of your podcast in it so that I could cyber stalk you and make sure that you were a legitimate person.
Maybe I did. Also, those were nice pictures.
Right.
They were professionally done by somebody for...
Yeah, and that was the other thing is a lot of the photos on dating apps it's just like, really, you didn't even try, you know? So it was nice that you had like decent photos of yourself. And I was like, oh, this is, so I was like, oh, Scotch and Good Conversation. That's interesting. I Googled it and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I
got a bit of a footprint.
Yeah, you have a bit of a footprint. And, I knew I had done front porch radio. You did not know that. So I was like, oh, we have a very similar like thing where we both just like to talk to strangers and like, have good conversations. Right. So I was like, okay, I don't even know what I said to you, but I was like, da-da-da.
You asked about like guest or something.
Oh, yeah. I asked about the podcast because I thought that was a good icebreaker.
Yeah, good opening. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks. I had a little bit of point. Anyway, then I went off of because I was like, this whole online dating thing is so gross. It's like dangerous.
You're like the only person who reached out to me, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not very popular on the online dating thing.
And
when you hit me up, I just started dating somebody.
Right. So that's why you then were off of it.
And then a year later, I don't know if you're supposed to do that. I was like, well, she seems interesting. And I just went, what's the statute of limitation on hitting somebody back up?
Yeah.
And we started chatting a little. And
now, mind you, I had closed down my account. But I guess it was Facebook dating. So I guess.
Which is a dumpster fire, by the way.
It's got its pros and cons. I like it because you can for women, I don't know if this is the same thing for men, but it's like, is this guy psycho or not? Right. So it's good to be able to oh, do you know this person? And you can ask, some of your mutual friends. Because
we have a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah. Which we had a lot of mutual friends. So I was like, okay, this is really, really weird. So so we started chatting and then I was like, oh yeah. And I had just rebooted Front Porch Radio. So I was like, we should do a little crossover because that would be hilarious because the only liquor I really like is whiskey. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, he likes scotch. That's cool. And he likes Good Conversation. I do Front Porch Radio, Conversations for the Common Good. We should do a thing, right? So we were like, the premise is already set. We have to do a crossover, which I don't really do, by the way. I'm not really a crossover kind of person. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I have with just about every podcast in Orlando.
It's probably
been a long time.
It's probably a smart thing to do. It's just not something I normally do. But I was like, whatever, let's just have fun with things, know? And you seemed really interesting and you had really cool things, right?
I'm not.
And so you discovered a few things about that we had in common. Go ahead and I'll give you the mic.
Well, usually on each episode I do these are three things that I know about you. And the first thing I found out about you was you worked at Kinko's.
Right.
And I don't know if the general public even remembers what Kinko's
It's now FedEx office.
Yeah, but it was quite a thing back in the 90s and early 2000s.
We even got on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, there was a movie kind of made about it a little bit. It's kind of hard to explain. It's it was an indie film.
I didn't know that.
It was a thing. And I worked there for 9 years, 9 months, and 11 days. And you worked at an entirely different store, but
right.
I know our paths have crossed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Once he revealed this to me, now Kinko's was a big part of my life. I talk about it as an entrepreneur, how I got my roots, everything I learned about business. I actually learned at Kinko's because I sat down with the district manager and learned the profit and loss statement for them. They had open book management. So you learned about cost of goods sold. You learned about payroll. It was essentially a business school. And they also had an incredible training department. So they had a really cool culture. That kind of informed the way I wanted to move forward as an entrepreneur in terms of creating an interesting culture. And so that was kind of a big thing for me. I was like, oh, that's really weird.
I could tell in your face. Every now and then I'll find something out about somebody.
I didn't think you were going to blow my mind.
I love it when I can find out something about somebody.
He likes to be clever. I can tell.
they'll go, how did you find that out?
Right.
And that was easy, like finding that out.
Right. It was LinkedIn. Yeah.
And I didn't want to go the easy route with you, like, because you have a history in Orlando.
Right.
And I figured that the whole premise of Scotch a Good Conversation is I really do want to have a decent conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
And I could go the easy route and talk about the restaurants or the bookstore.
Right.
But I'd rather talk about something that most my audience doesn't care about.
Well, it's just, so I was like, okay, that's so weird. Okay, we used to work. And I was like, oh, I think I remember you. Because, yeah, we were at different places. But because of the way the culture was, everyone would go downtown to do trainings. That's where the HR was. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I think I remember you. Now, I was like college age. And so you were like
in my
early 30s, maybe?
Late 20s, early 30s.
Late 20s, early 30s. And so I worked there from like 18 to like 24-ish. So that was wild. Yeah. And then you dumped on me that
we're birthday buddies.
We're birthday buddies.
Yeah. Apparently, and you found out within minutes of each other.
Yeah. So after the show, because on the show I was like, oh, I wonder what your big three are, which is your moon, your rising, and your what's the other one?
You're looking at
you don't even know. The moon, the sun, duh. And so he goes and you have to know your time of birth in order to understand that information. So he went and dug up his birth certificate, and I was born at 3:06 p.m. and he was born at 3:10 p.m., which means we have the exact same big three, which is, unless you're a twin, like this is very uncommon to find someone that has your exact same big three. Now, he is 11 years older than me, so a lot of our outer planets are different. But interestingly, I did pull up our charts. Interestingly, we both have a lot of planets in Virgo. So basically all of our planets are above the horizon in our chart, which means that we live in the public sphere.
Okay.
Right?
I guess
which
we both sort of do.
Yeah,
That's
we both
weird.
have, access to the airwaves. Like that's kind of a big deal. And so we're meant to be kind of living out loud a little bit. And so I was like, that is so fascinating to me. And all of that was like, coincidental and weird. And I was like, that's so strange. And then the next morning.
This is the weirdest part. You can do this.
I'm going to have to do this.
Yeah.
So this is the big drop. So I did a whole Substack on this because, now I literally have dreams about strangers and then they show up on my doorstep. Like, I am no stranger to weird synchronicities or spooky kind of coincidences and synchronicities, right? But this one was now Peter and I haven't actually talked about this, so we're going to talk about it right on air because I'm like, what is coming up for review here? And anyway, so I wake up in the morning. And I wasn't like thinking about our conversation.
Let's refer to that person as someone I know. How about that?
I don't know. Oh, really?
Yeah. It's okay. It's fine.
I feel like we have to, we should have had this pre-conversation. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I know, but now I'm worried. But it's cool. Yeah.
Wait, is it okay or is it not okay?
You do you. Yeah, it's
because
fine.
I feel like it's really relevant.
What's he going to do, divorce me?
But you passed it by her, right?
I didn't. Yeah.
She knows?
Yeah.
Okay. That's really important.
And it's very innocent.
It's super innocent. It's super innocent. It was the 90s. Everybody was drunk. Okay. So basically I wake up and I am like, oh my God, wouldn't it be wild if his ex-wife was the girl that I kissed at the Kinko's Christmas party that one time? And I then go, no way. So then I go to find her profile on Facebook. And not only am I like, maybe it was her, but she's also happens to be in New Orleans with my dear friend who was basically my housemate in my backyard for a couple of years. She's she's there with, somehow Terry Binion was visiting my friend Goose. And then Terry was like, oh, my other friends are in town. And it was there your ex-wife was smiling right then, next to my friend Goose. And I was like,
who I sort of know also.
Right, who you've tangentially met because this is a small world, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's weird. I immediately call Goose and I'm like, tell her what's going on. She goes, that would be crazy, you know? And so I just sat on it for a few days because I was like, part of me didn't want to know, but I knew it had to be her. Because again, I was drunk at this party.
Everybody was drunk at that party.
Everybody was drunk at this party. And I knew it happened. And it's actually part of the reason I went back in the closet, just so you know. We could talk a little bit about that. But then a few days later, you were like, hey, the podcast episode is up. And I was like, dude, like, weird question. But did your ex-wife ever kiss a girl at a Kinko's Christmas party?
And I want to put it out in the records, like, I didn't get to see this, and I'm kind of bummed.
Oh.
I'd heard about it.
Yeah.
And again, it was very innocent.
It was innocent. Yeah. It was just like a one thing. Like everyone was drunk and it was no fine. But there was a little bit of a crowd. And I, like, it became this lesbian thing, and I didn't want to be like objectifited that way, I guess was the, like, it wasn't for male consumption, essentially.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It didn't want to turn it into a dude bro thing.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was innocent. I'm not upset with anyone, you know, but I think it was I think she's the last girl I kissed.
Oh.
Like 25 years ago.
She's the last girl I kissed. Oh, no. I might have kissed one or two since then.
So to review, Peter and I had the same birthday down to like 4 minutes. Okay, we used to work at Kinko's together. I apparently we've both kissed the same woman. Weirdly enough, she's kissed both of us because we both had the same birthday, type
she
3.
Should be third break.
I thought about asking, but I you know, you guys are recently divorced. I didn't know like how weird that would be. So maybe you can do a little side interview with her about it, and we can have fun with it. But yeah, and just so you know, we did check with her beforehand to make sure she was okay. We're not just because it's just too weird.
Yeah, and it was a party. It was innocent. It wasn't like you guys were necking.
No.
Necking now, like
nobody says that.
Okay,
here.
I'm going to bring it back. I'm on the radio. This is very powerful.
Okay.
Go
ahead and try. Go ahead and try. No, it was very innocent, and all of that. And I don't even know how it happened, honestly. Like, I didn't remember the person's name, but I just remember, like, when you were interviewing me on your show, you mentioned that your ex-wife also worked there at the time. So I woke up in the morning and I just thought, oh my God, like, what are the chances?
Can you imagine what else?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so I am like, what is this bringing up? And like,
I was the doctor that delivered you, by the way.
The what?
The doctor that delivered you in your birth.
No, that is not true. You were 11. You were 11. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Dewey Hauser, MD.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been telling everyone the story because everyone is just like, no way, you know? And I was like, yeah, it's so nuts to me. And the fact that a lot of our astrology is similar, like, is bearing out in our careers like that we've had, because you're very entrepreneurial. You know, we both have like you have a podcast, I have a radio show. Like, I don't know if we went through the same breakup at the same time because of the stars. I don't know. But I suspect that you don't really know much about astrology, do you?
No, I don't know if I even.
Does it freak you out?
I think the universe is random, and sometimes weird random things happen. But those three things are very bizarre.
Right.
Yeah.
Super bizarre.
Yeah.
He sounds very underwhelmed about it, you guys.
I don't know if I believe in the astrology thing.
Right.
I'm sorry.
It's totally fine. No, it's
Yeah.
completely fine to harsh my buzz on it because a lot of people
No,
believe in
I
astrology.
don't want to yuck on your yum.
No.
Yeah.
It's completely fine because you will come to my side at the end.
Okay, if you think so.
Well, I'm one of these people that I'm very interested in systems and patterns and things like that. And astrology was something I started as just like a like a self-development tool, like a reflection tool.
To understand yourself better.
Yeah, to understand myself better. And I was like, nah, I mean, or yeah, And so there is that, like, is there correlation, causation, and then are you just seeing what you want to see, like all those different things. But I mean, I've been looking at astrology since I was in my 20s, and I have just seen bear out over time that there are undeniably, like there's something to it, is all I'm having to say.
Yeah, I'll admit there's something to it.
Yeah, there's something to it. I don't know what it is. I'm kind of more pragmatic in that I think that there is, well, I know that there are gravitational pulls between the planet. They've found like these umbilical cords of gravitational pulls between all of the planets. And like if the moon and the gravitation it affects us so dramatically here on Earth, like why wouldn't the other planets also affect us, right?
Yeah.
And so I just think that there's something that hasn't yet been discovered about that there's actually a biological underpinning for a lot of it. But like when you go to like a mountain, it has a feel to it. It's got a vibe, and I feel like that's the same thing going on with the planets. And over time, we've just discovered that they have their own personalities and archetypes that go on with them. So I'm not going to go. I printed out your astrology for you, and we can kind of look at it together.
You told me I was broken, I think, to worry.
No, I didn't say broke. I said this is why you have so many
problems.
Well, okay, so I will say this one thing.
Tell me what my problems are.
We'll say this one thing. Okay. Well, so one of the things is you have the moon and Mars conjunct in Scorpio, and Neptune is also sitting in Scorpio. So you have and your south node as well.
What?
Your south node. Don't worry so much about the south node.
Soft node.
So Scorpio, so the shared thing that we have there is that we both have a Scorpio moon. Would you say that you're pretty intuitive?
No, maybe. I can't tell.
Maybe?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Maybe no, I don't. I wouldn't. See, that's why I don't necessarily believe in astrology, because you can put that in my head and go, well, I am intuitive.
I need to interview your ex-wife. To find out.
Yeah, she knows me better than I know.
Well, so what's interesting here is you also have Neptune here, which is like it's can be very illusory. And like one of the books that like in my onboarding form that you put out was that you really liked Illusions by Richard Bach. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's that Neptune and Scorpio energy right there.
Do you know that book?
No, but I was interested in it. Tell me about that book, actually.
It's a hippie new age book from the 70s. And
yeah, you're like a closet hippie.
No, I'm not. I'm so punk
You
rock.
went to like Chinese medicine school.
Yeah, but only because I thought it'd make me a lot of money.
Really?
No.
But you went and you've got this Illusions thing going on. Illusions by Richard Bach. Tell me about it. What do you remember?
I read it when life gets complicated. I don't know if you saw the tattoo on my arm. That's the cover. It's a book that means a lot to me. My brother gave it to me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is how I look at life.
What's the philosophy? Give us those cliff notes.
In a nutshell, everything's random. And
okay.
Yeah, and I am the master of my own domain.
Okay.
And
so your randomness is meeting my synchronicity.
I guess.
Oh my goodness. It's so exciting to me.
Okay.
It really is, because I'm like, for me, being someone that I do believe that randomness is like there, right? I think randomness has its place in the whole dance of things, but I also see like a grand symphony that is going on that has patterns and cycles to it. And so I think that that's going to be very interesting to like explore as a I'm going to read this book.
If I have a copy, I usually have a copy of it laying around. If I have a copy, I'll give you, but I think I gave my last copy away.
No, it's fine. I'll get it.
Yeah,
I own a bookstore. So
yeah, but to say you might have
Actually, I was like this. I feel like this is a book that should be sold at the bookstore.
He also wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. That I don't know if maybe you're too young. You're just a kid.
Yeah,
it was a thing. Like this was a
legitimate
hippie thing.
It was a big thing.
Yeah.
So not a hippie. So I'm assuming it gives you comfort to know that things are random.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a nutshell. The end of the book is everything in this book could be wrong. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I like that. it's one of those things where it reminds me that I'm not as smart as I think I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess is that a Leo thing?
That's a us thing, because I often say that I like to surround myself by people that are smarter than me.
That's good.
And I've told Max, I said, you're one of the things about being so smart, because she's brilliant, obviously, my daughter.
She seems very nice.
Is that, the crutch of being so smart is that you are going to think you're right.
I'm hardly ever right.
And the most important thing is to really be humble and ask questions and be curious and have courage.
That's why I started the podcast.
Yeah, question your own narrative and your own judgments about things.
Yeah, I assume every one of my guests is smarter than I am, and one of the things I ask is, and I started doing this 5 or 6 years ago, I ask for like life advice.
Right.
And a lot of times it's something that I'm already doing, but I need to be reminded to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just drink water or breathe, or take a moment before you make a decision. Think before you say everything. That's a big one, and then hard for me because I podcast for a living, more or less. But I just enjoy the whole process of it. I enjoy this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. Thank you for having me on the show. This is fun.
Yeah, likewise. Same thing. Well, because for me, even though so there was a 10 years that I did the restaurant and the radio show, and I did a lot of stuff with the local movement. But the most when I was kind of out of that and looking at the prior decade, these conversations on Front Porch Radio were the things that had informed me, inspired me, changed me, made me feel connected.
Yeah. We don't do this anymore.
Yeah. People don't
We do this. We do cell phones. We do computers.
Yeah. Cell phones and computers. And, one of my things was just normalize deep conversations, or even just conversations, Yeah. But I'm the kind of person that if I was at a restaurant and I would be like, hey, you want to eat together? To a stranger, because why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Get to know somebody.
Yeah. I get to know
somebody. You can learn
somebody.
something from everybody if you just listen.
Yeah.
And that's another part of the podcast that I've learned to say less, which is hard because I'm the host of a show and you have to lead the conversation. But I've learned the art of steering the conversation to the places I want to go, but also letting it flow, because I have people on because they have something of value to say.
Right. And they're usually the better ones to know.
Yeah. I have the luxury of editing.
Yeah.
And we had a whole conversation about stuff, and I just cut it out.
I know. You cut out the part about the 9/11 thing. I thought that was so good.
What was it about? I don't remember.
The Kinko. Okay, well, we're just going to say it now.
Yeah.
So we had this whole discussion about the Kinkos, and I wasn't upset you cut it out, but I thought it was so fascinating. So I worked in the computer services department at Kinkos.
It's funny, I don't remember this at all. I spent an hour and a half editing it.
Yeah, and so basically, I was at the UCF Kinkos working, and these guys would come in, and they would be printing stuff out from the computer, because we had, it wasn't like today. You could go rent a computer is basically what happened. So they would come in, they would rent a computer, and then they were printing out. They would cover the monitor when they walked away from their monitor to get the print out, and then they were getting these weird Arabic looking, official looking seals. And we were like, we don't know what's going on here. It's really, really weird. And then after 9/11 happened, I remember me and the other girl who worked in the computer services department, we were like, do you think? And then it came out that they used the Kinko's computers throughout Florida, and probably other states too, but throughout Florida, to plan the 9/11 attack, which was wild to us. And then I ended up at some point talking to the CEO, and there was video of him. He just happened to be visiting a store in South Florida, and he was literally back to back with Mahatma Atta in some of their surveillance video. And then they started doing all these computer updates on the, I'm sure security patches. I'm sure all the libraries and anywhere you can rent a computer is monitored, essentially.
I wonder why I cut that out.
Yeah, it's fascinating information.
Something I said. I probably said something I didn't like.
No. Well, it was also going to make the episode long, so it's fine. But I thought that was fascinating, and I'm like, how can I be 1 degree away from something crazy like that. And like Teresa and I were like, we weren't like, it was out of our minds that somebody would be planning something like that at the store. Like it didn't even occur to, we thought they were strange, but
Well, it shows you, what was that, 20 years ago? Something like that?
Oh, a while ago. I don't even remember.
The world is such a vastly different place then.
Yeah.
Now we could plan that through, well, we could, and you could, you're smart, but you wouldn't because you're not evil.
No.
But we could do that from the computer over there.
Yeah.
One of the myriad of computers you have in front of you.
Yeah.
It's such a different place, 10 cents a minute to rent a computer. And there was a room full of people doing that.
Yeah.
It just turns out that
some people are
planned
not good people.
Attack on America. Not
good people, y'all.
I'm sorry I cut it out.
No, it's okay. They know now.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's all good. So yeah, I just think that I know that you think everyththing's random, right? So has this shook you at all? It's a weird series of coincidences.
Yeah, yes and no. It is very weird. It's very strange. I'm not saying it isn't, but I don't know. We met because we were supposed to meet at this time.
Well, there's that, of course, but like for me, I'm like, oh, does this mean I see symbolism. I'm an animist, so I see symbolism everywhere. I feel like I'm in an interactive, like I think everything's, I saw a dead lizard on my bathroom floor today because the dogs must have brought it in or something like that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I try to find meaning in everything, and it was so interesting because we also had a moment on your interview where we were talking about some of the things I was selling at the store. And one of them was, we basically referenced that I had a couple of crystal vulvas. And you were like, and I said, yeah, I had 2 at my house. And you were like, 2? Why do you have 2 of those at your house?
More than you need.
I know, totally more. One is probably more than you need.
Yeah, probably.
But I was like, I'm like, for me, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm supposed to be unearthing something else about my my bisexuality, that I haven't been looking at.
I was just wondering what you brought a second one home.
Right. Well,
Did you forget you had one?
No. Well, no, because
I had one at my house. I remember
since
it was there.
I kissed your ex-wife.
Good point.
I have stuffed that side back inside.
You should give one
without
to my
even
ex-wife.
knowing I had done it.
Send her one for Christmas.
Send her one of the.
Sure.
That would be weird. Okay.
Send it to me. I'll give it to her.
That would be too weird. But yeah, like I've just been like, oh, okay. And so like since I broke up with my ex, I've been, I found myself in a series of monogamous relationships with men, and it just. Apparently, when you're bisexual, that can happen. Like, if you don't, intentionally try to not date men. Like, I still haven't figured out because I still haven't found any girls to date. But, it's, this really weird thing. So I was, part of the reason that they were at my house is because I was like, I want to intentionally try.
Where do you keep those? Is it on a mantle
they're back
someplace?
at the store now.
Oh, you moved them?
They were on my dresser.
Okay. On or in?
On my dresser.
Okay.
They were on my dresser.
Bookends?
Yeah, they were basically look like bookends, cool. But fabulous.
What's
Yoni
that go for in your shop?
Bookends. I think they're $130.
Wow.
Yeah.
Worth it.
They're fabulous, But yeah, sometimes when I go to the crystal buys, I get to take some crystals home with me.
You got them for free?
No. I bought them,
okay.
and now I need to sell them, so I put them back at the store.
Yeah, it's a lot of money for just sitting on your.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody might need it,
I can't think of why.
Well,
you need
just
it too.
for fun.
Okay.
Just for fun.
Okay.
Why not?
I need to visit the store again. I didn't notice any of this
I
stuff.
also have a series of paintings that I didn't know, but apparently they're very vulva-like. Like a bunch of them. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, you have a lot going on.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we have the premise but not the actual plot to this. Do you have a sense? Do you think we're going to be friends?
I think I want to be your friend.
I want to be your friend too.
Yeah.
I feel like just from the scientific astrological angle, I'm so interested. But obviously, we're going to get along because we're both cool.
I think you're cooler than I am.
I don't know enough about you to say or not say, but you seem pretty cool too. So I am just like, let's go on a trip or something.
All right.
Let's take even if it's a day trip.
I want to go to a crystal show.
You want to go to the crystal show?
I want to visit that booth.
I have one of them. Oh, you want to go to the gem show?
No, I don't want to go to the gem show.
Oh, those are kind of cool. Kidding. Those are cool, though. It's actually a really weird subculture.
Gem subculture?
Yeah, there's a gem subculture. They all these people come with all of their gems, and there's like crystal skulls, and there's fine jewelry, and then there's like everyone from all these different countries like come. So you have people from Africa.
I don't want to do this.
South America. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's a lot going on. There's a lot of energy in the room when you go to those.
There would have to be, I guess.
Yeah, but I drop $10,000 to $20,000 every time I go to a gem show.
Wow, that's a lot of money, and you got a couple $100 worth of crystals.
Well, I mean, I have a whole shop full that I can just hang out in and stuff like that. But
we'll plan something.
Anyway.
Yeah, get some food. Get a beer.
Yeah, no, I just think I think that like there's more to the story, and there's probably like a part 3.
I can't imagine what else there is. Like, honestly,
I can't either. But I think it's beyond either of our imaginations.
Yeah,
because it's just too weird. Maybe I'm supposed to come over to your side of thinking things are random, and you're supposed to be like, oh, maybe there is more of a pattern. Maybe that, because like to me, it's like, why now? Why this situation? Why? Like, it's just too weird.
I think
but you're not asking why.
No, I'm not. I don't know. I don't know why I'm not asking why. I mean, I think it's interesting, but I don't know. I'm too tired to try to figure it out.
It's too close to Christmas. Yeah. Do you celebrate Christmas?
I'm not feeling very Christmassy this year.
Yeah.
Like last year, I was a little Christmassy, but I was going into a new relationship, and that relationship is over. So we talked about it a little bit earlier. My mom passed away right before Christmas last year, and I don't think I processed it because I didn't jump into, but I got into this new relationship, and it was fun and exciting, and the first person I really dated since I'd been divorced. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't really notice. And then, like, I'm an orphan now. I don't have parents.
That's a hard one.
I didn't even realize how much it bothered me until someone told me I was an orphan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my brother lives up north, so it's and I don't know. Part of me just kind of wants to. I'm probably not going to do much on Christmas Day. I think I'm going to go. I'm moving out of one place into another place, and I got to the end of the month to get out, so I'm going to go clean and maybe go have a beer or see a movie.
Did your family have traditions around Christmas?
Oh, yeah. I grew up like church boy.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the Lutheran church, and we did all the services. And then when I was married.
Lutherans are kind of hip, aren't they?
It's kind of like laid back Catholics.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to go to like confession or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I had great parents. I had amazing parents. And like, when I was married, we did Christmas the whole time except that last year. So, like I said, I had a pretty good Christmas last year because I was in this relationship with this girl, and it was fun. Mm-hmm. It was exciting. And the girl's still cool. We're buddies.
Right.
I talked to her this morning. But this year, I'm just not feeling it. I don't know why. I mean, again, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's part of your process, your grieving process. And I'm wondering, like, you've gone through a lot of changes in the last, year. Like, do you feel like you're having like an identity crisis at all? Or like, do you feel like, are you like on the birth of like reinventing yourself?
I don't know. And I haven't talked about it, so I guess I'll put it out here. I'm giving the idea of ending the podcast at 500.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to say that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I might not. I don't know. Right now, I'm just tired of doing it. Like, I love this part,
right?
But everything else that goes along with it is exhausting. Getting guests and editing and booking and doing the social media stuff, and on top of the fact that I have a life and
you've got like a day job.
Yeah, and podcasting has changed. When I started doing it, it was, I always say it like any guy with dude, or I guess, or anybody with 2 mics or even 1 mic
right.
can do a podcast. You can do a podcast from your phone now. You don't
yeah.
even need a mic. So now it's everybody gets issued a podcast at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to do video. Like I don't.
What about radio? You don't have to edit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm. That's it. I also question if I'm good enough to do it without editing.
Yeah.
I don't. I think my format is very, very, very unique.
Yeah, I really liked the thought that you put into your format. I was definitely taking notes for myself.
And for the people who don't, one of the things that I do that I've never known another show where I have my guests ask me questions and I tell them you can ask me anything. I cut out one of your questions too. That was the other thing.
I felt like that was appropriate though.
Yeah. Well,
I also felt a little conflicted about that question myself.
I up until that point, like I had you on just to meet you.
Yeah.
But I'd never had you would ask. Can I say what the question?
I don't care. Yeah.
You would ask me if I used the podcast to date, and I'd never really thought about it.
Me either.
And I guess and people know who I am. I mean, people know who I am. That sounds so big-headed. I've been recognized by my voice,
mm-hmm.
like in public. So I guess I'm a minor local celebrity.
I completely.
With that.
Look.
Yeah.
We're the same.
Yeah,
I have the same
like
weird thing because I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm sort of like a little teeny bit weirdly famous in this super weird subculture, but it's also like that's so weird.
I mean, you said it was a Leo thing to want attention, and one of the things I like about the podcast is I don't have to put my face there.
No, we don't want attention.
Yeah,
we just get it.
Oh,
that's the thing about Leos, and everyone thinks we want it. But like, it's not, there's something about our Riz or whatever that like, I think it's the authenticity because Leos are very authentic. And so they're authentic, they're courageous, and they're typically confident. So that I don't
lack any confidence.
I already know that about you, Peter.
I have to dial it back.
That's why you amp up the humbleness, in order to, yeah.
No, I'm aware I do.
I got you. I got you all figured out because we're the same in that way.
I want you to tell me about the crazy.
We're the same in that way. But yeah, it's not that you like want the attention. It's just that you get the attention.
I guess.
Yeah. But also like you get it because you're, curious about other people and wanting to. That's why I started Front Porch Radio was because I had all these people coming into, at the time it was Dandelion, doing all these cool things and social media didn't exist. And I was like, I felt like I was the central depository for underground information. And I was like, I need to get this information out. Like I just wanted to promote all the cool stuff that was going on and let people know about it. And that's genuinely how Front Porch Radio started.
I just want to talk to rock stars.
I'm less interested in rock stars, I think.
Well, the nice thing about the podcast is I've got to talk to a lot of my heroes.
Right.
Like people.
Yeah, you've had some pretty big names on your podcast.
I mean.
Wait, let's remind everyone, it's Scotch and Good Conversation.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at the self-promotion or the promotion part.
That's fine. We'll figure it out.
If you're tuning in, you're listening to Front Porch Radio. I'm Julie Wilder. My guest today is Peter Von Taborsky of Scotch and Good Conversation, an award-winning, very popular podcast here in Central Florida. It's been it is. It's award-winning, multiple years. You're very proud of it. You wrote it. I'm very proud of this.
Did I write
Don't let him talk you out of it. He's super proud of it. Now you threw me off. ScotchandGoodConversation.com, correct? Am I right?
Yeah, if you want.
Yeah. So yeah, talk about your podcast. Let's hear some of the guests. Like what kinds of people are they going to find on there, and what kinds of conversations are they going to hear?
It's mostly musicians, but I'm not like authors, directors, mostly musicians, creative types. The first 150 episodes are local people.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also interviewed my mom twice. I interviewed my high school teacher. I drove down to South Florida just to tell her thank you. I wish I got to interview my dad. He would have loved it. The initial idea was going to be just my brother and I talking.
Yeah.
And just logistically, that was a nightmare. And he's the yin to my yang, and I don't like he would want me to cut out certain things. And I was like, I don't want to do that. It takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
If you and I have a real conversation in real life, we can't cut stuff out. But, he's a pillar in his community, and he doesn't want nonsense out there, and I understand that, and I respect that.
Yeah.
I started it as an advertisement for, I used to sell vintage menswear, and I wanted a way to advertise more. So I talked to my accountant, and he said, yeah, if you just mention your menswear company, we can write it off our taxes. I mean, he was creative.
Right.
And I wanted a way to talk about my friend's business. I have a lot of friends who have businesses or in bands or restaurants or stuff like that. So I figured it was a win for everybody involved. And I was to the point where most of my friends were married and having kids, and we didn't get to go out often. And I missed the conversations you have after the bar closes when you walk to the car and you don't necessarily want to go home.
Yeah.
So you lean against the car. And I always say they're the most important conversations about everything and nothing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love those, and I miss those.
Yeah.
And now I get to have those. I sound like I'm bragging, but I'm reminding myself I've had those with some of my favorite musicians. And even more than the Dumb Orlando Weekly things, the fact that one of my favorite singer-songwriters ever told me that it was the best interview he's ever had. He had the most fun. And, and I've had musicians that I respect ask me to come back on the show. So to me, I mean, that's I win.
Yeah.
And just to get to chat again for another hour with somebody who I know every song on their album. And I pride myself on not asking, who produced this and, what guitar do you use or why'd you put that effect here? And I want to know what's in your nightstand or when you lost your virginity or,
do you get people's virginity stories? That's crazy.
I have. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's really going there, Peter.
That's the premise of the podcast is asking smart people stupid questions.
Right. I don't know if that's a stupid question. It's a very...
Well, I didn't ask that. Oh. But it...
So you didn't ask someone that?
But it segued into that.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's...
So you followed the flow, and then there was an opening, and you're like, seize the day.
One of my favorite conversations I had, and I'm not even a huge fan of this band, but I the bass guitarist for Sum 41.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. You look like you don't know who that is. They're a big band.
I'm a single mom. I got a lot going on.
That's
man.
fine. Your kid seems cool. Too cool.
She probably knows.
But big band.
Okay.
We spent about 15 minutes where he's telling me why he urinates sitting down at his house, and they're kind of a punk rock band. And it was the sweetest reason, because he has a daughter and a wife, and he doesn't want to make a mess on the seat at night when he gets up. And I was like, "You're not so punk rock. you're just." And it was sweet. Like
punk is super courteous.
Yeah, but it's
punk is actually really courteous.
I know
people who actually. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
preaching to the choir.
But it's those things, and he's not going to get that on a normal podcast,
right?
And I pride myself on that kind of stuff. That it's fun. I think I don't know. It's the most selfish thing I've ever done.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody who wants to start a podcast?
Don't start a podcast.
Don't. Why? Peter's a little burnt out, you guys.
Everybody thinks they're going to make money.
No, I have never.
Yeah.
I've never gotten a dime from doing Front Porch Radio. It's a public service.
It costs money to podcast.
It does. Yeah.
I'm fortunate because I do have some pretty good sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had a couple. I was doing it as my job, and I recently had to get a job, like a real adult big boy job.
Right.
And I'm not complaining. People work way harder than I do. I'm not complaining that I had to get. Oh, poor Peter got to get a job. But I put on a uniform shirt every day.
Yeah.
It feels like I've sold my soul to the devil. But I get to do what I want. But I start a podcast, but don't just start it and think. God, this just sounds so terrible. Think you're going to have immediate success right away. You're not going to even put a dent in the podcast world until you get like 100 episodes out.
Yeah.
And any book you read, any YouTube video you're going to watch, it's going to tell you the key is consistency. Mm-hmm. If you're supposed to come out on Tuesday, put your podcast every Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Every Tuesday. I've done 457 episodes. I never missed an episode until my divorce.
Right.
And then
How long did you take off?
I took a long time off, like 2.5 months. And
that is not a long time, Peter. I took 7 years off.
I took 7 years off. Like a lifetime.
Because I was like, I can't. I'm in such a foul mood, and I hate everything and everyone right now. I can't.
It felt like a lifetime because it'd been something I'd been doing. Mm-hmm. At that point, I had 363 episodes out because I was almost. I could listen every day for a year. I was very proud of myself.
Right.
And then I took 2 months off, and I talked to my sponsors, and I said, "Look, I'd love for you guys to be here, like if and when I come back.
Right.
But I don't know if I'm coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have it in me." And they said, "We'll be here." And all of them were. I mean, I've lost 1 or 2 since then, but I mean, it's been a year and a half, and well, for good reasons. But I also didn't think it was fair to my listeners to have me faking my way through being happy or being sad. And I'm not every, you said it, not every episode's happy. Like,
no. Yeah.
We cover some heavy duty stuff on the podcast, but most of it's just silly nonsense. Like life. I don't know where I was going with this. Do whatever you want. Start a podcast. Just don't ask me. I won't help you. I might give you a book.
I will say, for me, it's like just follow what you're curious about.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like
if you want to talk to people, don't record it.
What do you mean?
Just don't record it. Just go talk to your friends. Ask them questions.
Yeah.
Not the world doesn't need to hear my interviews.
Well, and that's the thing is like
you
don't have to turn everything into some sort of like commercial endeavor, right?
Yeah.
You
talk
know,
to your friends.
You talk to your friends, have them over for dinner. You know, get one of those decks that has you asking random questions of each other and
ask strangers questions.
You know, just be inquisitive and. You know, people, especially the younger generations, they don't have as many social skills as well because they grew up just with, you know, their phones, which is.
But it's nice to see like your daughter has a show before your show. That's cool.
Yeah, she's super cool.
You know, and they're playing their own music, and she was in here with her friend, and that's cool. And I think I don't have kids. I don't get around kids. That's like the most I've talked to a child in a long time. But that gives me hope for the younger generation.
The kids these days, I have to say,
right.
I mean, I have an exceptionally cool child, but their whole friend group is so cool. Like they give each other bizarre presents, like. If one of them, if they're all hanging out at a house and one of them has to leave, they all walk that person to the door to say goodbye. Like they went camping the other day. Like they made a little independent film while they were camping. Like just fun, cool, like goofy, just ridiculous. You know, they have like hippie themed parties and dress up like hippie. Like they're just like pure. But then they also they came over to the house to watch the election together. Like they're all political. Nice. It's so interesting.
Seem smart. They're not knuckleheads.
Yeah, they're not knuckleheads. I mean, they're knuckleheads, but
I don't get around kids often.
Yeah.
But everybody kids are different these days. I don't think kids are any different. They just have different tools at their disposal. I know nothing about children. I don't have them. I don't get around them often.
Yeah.
But I can see myself doing the exact same kind of stuff.
I'm definitely a better person because I have a child.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. You know, I knew I wasn't the man for the job.
How did you know?
I'm too self-involved and.
But that's the thing.
No, my brother's got a child. He's a better person than I am.
I'm gonna tell you the secret. Okay,
tell me the secret.
So Leo's like us. Before I had Max,
us or
me and you, like me and you.
Okay.
Before I had Max, I had a lot of people that were like, I don't know. Like they were worried about me being a parent.
This is not a good idea for you.
I mean, they were like, I don't know about this, you know. And my best friend was like, I knew you had it the whole time. But something just kicks in when you become a parent that, I literally was like, I feel like I'm going to do this birth thing fine, but I don't know what I'm going to do with the thing when it comes out, you know. And it just clicks in. I'm a great mom. I think you would be a great dad.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that ship has sailed, but
yeah, that's Well, I guess it's technically possible, but very, very improbable. That's nipped.
It's snipped, he said. Did you say nipped or snipped?
Snipped. Yeah.
Which actually I think is an asset in the dating world now, considering all of the, like abortion laws that are.
Yeah.
I
went through. Yeah, I mean,
like you should put that in your dating profile. Be like, by the way,
I just didn't want my wife taking hormones.
Yeah, no, nobody wants that.
I don't know, and that's just seemed easier, and it's painless and quick. Well, it's not painless. It wasn't fun, but.
Did you know? Fun fact.
Hit me.
They have made a male birth control. I think in India they made it, and essentially it is a injection of this substance. It's like a polymer or something like that they inject into your, parts. And then basically when we're on the radio.
I don't want anybody injected parts.
Well, it's a very simple, like it's just, you don't have to snip nothing, basically. No, but they just put it in the, I don't know, it's not a vein.
Vas deferens?
That's the thing.
Yes.
I had that on the tip of my tongue, but I didn't want to say if I was wrong. So thanks for helping me out there.
So I have one.
And so, cool. But basically what it does is like slaughters the tails off of the sperm. Wow. It just chops it up. It like puts it through like a mincing thing so that basically they all come out unable to swim.
Oh, poor little.
I know, poor little guys. But basically it works. I think that the last thing they tested was like at least for 5 years, and it's easily reversed by putting saline in there. So it's like an outpatient thing that is easily reversed, and it's 100% effective. Right. And it's already been created. There's been trials forever and ever. But they make a lot of money on the birth control pills. So
yeah, I don't. I just didn't want my wife taking hormones. I wouldn't.
Well, hormones made me crazy.
I wouldn't get. I would rather have the snip.
Yeah.
Than have. I don't want my sperms to have tails. Can I say that on the radio?
You don't want your sperm to have tails?
No, I do want my sperm to have tails.
But isn't when you snip it, doesn't that mean that they don't even go any? Like, how does it work?
I'm about here. Yeah.
That was really funny. A whole conversation.
I'm so glad we were on the radio. That was funny.
All right, we're almost out of time. Actually, we're out of time, but I'm going to let it go for just a few more minutes because I think we started late, and the next DJ isn't here. Cool. Lucky for us.
Yeah.
So I did want to talk to you a little bit about some of your practices. I know that you were saying that you've been really into meditation. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you've regretted is not having like an actual therapist. So I'm checking in with you. Where are you at on all that? Are you seeing a therapist regularly?
One of my plans is to see a therapist in the new year.
One of your plans?
Yes.
Okay.
I was seeing a therapist for all of last year,
mm-hmm.
and then they told me I was better now.
Oh.
No, it's a lie. I just didn't want to see the therapist anymore. I felt better. And when I feel like I need to see a therapist again. I don't know if I'm just melancholy because of the holidays.
Yeah.
And because of the new job. But I think I might talk to somebody. One of the nice things about the podcast is I really feel like it's therapy.
It is.
It really is. Especially talking to a different person every week and having a real, honest to goodness conversation. And like I said, one of my things is I have people ask me questions, and I let them know you can ask me anything.
Yeah.
Especially now that I don't have a mom or a wife. Like, there's no getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And I find it really, really super therapeutic.
Yeah, you don't have to compromise.
No. That's when you asked if I wanted to do the radio or something like that. And I don't know if someone came to me and said, hey, we're going to put your show on the radio, but you'll have to edit and you can't curse or you can't, and I don't know if I would.
Right.
I don't know. That's it. I've always wanted to do art, and this is the closest thing I've ever done that feels artistic and has met with a little bit of success. Anybody can podcast. It's simple. Anybody, people talk. If you can talk, you can podcast. Forget what I said. Start a podcast. Everybody's let's not talk to each other.
Well, I like having multiple stories going on so that we have multiple narratives happening. But I do feel like I've been thinking about like where you're at in life, just because that's what I do. And I really feel like, especially when you lose your parents, and obviously, you've had a rough go of it for the past couple of years. Just in like, it's like a tower card moment for you. Like everything's kind of falling off, but then there's like that reinvention on the other side, and you get to decide who you are instead of like, an expectation that you have to live up to, or a reflection of what other people might want, or the approval that they might give you. You get to just be like who you are without all of that.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas who that person is yet?
Kind of. Moving into the new spot is nice. Like, and I'm looking forward to being really out of the old spot, because I went into that place under such chaos. Like, I literally the end of my marriage. Like one day I was sleeping in my bed, next minute I'm sleeping on the couch, next minute I'm moving into a new apartment.
Right.
For the first time in 20 something years, and I'm on my own. It was scary. Like I didn't like living on my own at that point. I had nothing. I had a mattress.
Right.
Peloton. And there was a lot of sad times in that apartment, like a lot of late night. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm. Are you typically a happy person?
Yeah.
So it's like taking you.
A couple of years ago, if you had asked me how I am, my response was, I'm amazing.
Right.
And I think part of that was me trying to convince myself I am, but part of me was I have, even before I started practicing gratitude, like looking for gratitude, I was very aware that I've had no real adversities in my life up until the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But in the last couple of years, well, I mean, my father passed away a couple of years, like 5 or 6 years ago, but I've had a lot of weird things happen. We got to get out of here.
No, it's okay. You're fine.
A lot of weird things happened all in a short amount of time. And again, I'm really lucky. Like, my life is pretty darn good. Most people.
It's okay to say it sucks right now, Peter.
No, but it doesn't suck right now.
Meh.
It doesn't. Thanks. It doesn't suck right now.
I mean, it doesn't suck in the aspect of like you get to reinvent yourself, and it feels like the endings have happened, and now you're at beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I.
So that's really cool.
I don't think it sucks right now. Like it's better than most.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I have a little bit of money in the bank. I have a dope house. I have a car that works. I have running water, a really cool stereo. I got a lot of records. I've got books. I've got movies that stream to me if I want them. I eat in nice restaurants every now and then. I can travel if I want. Mm-hmm. Honestly, like I'm pretty positive most of the time. Even during the dark days in that apartment, the sun came up.
Yeah, of course.
Half the battle's over.
Yeah.
If the sun didn't come up, that's a problem.
Right.
I'm just going to be glad to get all the way out of there and into a new spot where it doesn't remind me of everything.
I think this is going to be a good year for you.
I think it is. Like
only because I know astrologically it will be. Just
okay,
so you
cool.
know.
The
stars are good.
Does the angels say something, or are the clouds whispering to us?
No, I think it's going to be a good year for you.
I think it's going to be a good year for you.
I know it's going to be a good year for me.
Good.
And I have known other years were not going to be great for me.
But told me.
But this is
known you a couple of years.
This is going to be a good year.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, obviously we have other things that are happening in the world that make it.
Oh yeah. But on a personal level.
Yeah, on a personal level.
That's all I care about.
Yeah. I care deeply about what goes on in the community level, but also. The community that plays together stays together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Orlando's a cool spot.
Yeah, and you definitely have like quintessential Orlando vibes going on. So
yeah, going down to Mills after this. So.
All right, we should wrap it up now.
Thank you.
Yeah, Peter, thank you so much. I'm really excited to see how this unfolds because, again, I feel like I told someone, I have the premise but not the plot. I feel like there's more to the story here because it's just like the universe is like, no, you guys really need to know each other. and I don't know why yet. I feel like we're going to collaborate on a project somehow.
That'll be weird.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how or why or what, but we have the same like career trajectory path in our charts, which is very interesting to me.
All right.
So we'll see.
Explain the charts to me more.
Yeah, I love that he's so not into astrology. It's going to be so great. I'm gonna totally slowly convert him. It's going to be fantastic. Peter Von Taborsky of SCOTCHandGoodConversation.com. And if you want to follow along, I do have a Substack, which I think is an amazing tool. It's made it so much easier for me to do this program. So I do podcast it after the fact, unedited typically. So you can follow me over at the Front Porch Radio Substack, which I really honestly recommend you get on there too, because it's where all the thoughtful conversation is happening. It really is.
There's a compliment in there someplace. Thank you.
No, it is. And you guys have a wonderful holiday. I know Christmas is coming up. Don't forget to shop local. You really got to support your independents right now if you want them to be around for the long haul. Speaking from experience, I totally know that. So get out there. You can't buy online anymore because they won't deliver. So you got to get out to the actual stores and do that. So we'll see you. I'll talk at you in another week. And Peter, I'll see you. We'll have to plan like a day trip somewhere, do something fun.
We can go outside this room.
Yeah, somewhere.
Cool. See you out there.
Anywhere.
All right, peace.
All right. Bye, guys.